All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Season 1, Episode 11 of the Shawn Mackey Show, Chronicles of a Dumbass. I got to let you know, we're going to maybe be making a few changes here and there, thinking about the direction of the show we want to go to or with it, and we've got some ideas. We've upgraded some services. We've put out a website. You can go to theshawnmackeyshow.com. That's THESHAWNMACKEY.com. The Shawn Mackey Show. And that can be your one-stop shop for all of the show's episodes. Mostly the audio versions. Like I said, we're still playing with the video. We may make this a dual or video podcast. We just don't know what we're going to do just quite yet. We do know that we are not going to be talking about Blackburn spring sports any longer. Taking Easter off, we did not put together any information. Games got rained out. They got moved. They've had a bunch of games since then. My connection to Blackburn softball and baseball ends in like 3 weeks, and we kind of did this, like give the kids a little shout out here and there, pump them up a little bit during the season, but it's not the show's focus that we want to go with here. And our focus, it may be the sports, and then not necessarily having episodes or portions of the episode geared like, say, okay, now we're going to transition from sports to shit that pisses me off and dumbass shit that I did. When those things are relevant to what I'm talking about in the sports world, then we're going to share, we're going to interject, we're going to kind of just go with what we love, not necessarily what we know. A lot of podcasters out there, they go with what their passion is. Or they go with what they're an expert in. I did spend 20 years in education. I'm not an expert. I have not been in education for a while. I don't have any fast and hard advice for anybody going into education. In fact, the relationship that I have with education, it probably wouldn't be a good idea to listen to me unless you want to jump on that, education sucks bandwagon is where I would go. And you're going to see, because before we make these changes, we are going to talk a little bit about some of the things. I do want to finish sharing the short story that I've been writing with you. And I am going to share my real life Jerry Maguire moment, starting with this episode, I believe. So we are going to kind of finish up season 1 in the same format that we started with. And then when we take a little bit of time off and come back, we may have a revamped show for you guys. I hope that doesn't knock some listeners off of the old box there listening to us. It's still going to be, when I do interject or tell a story, it's still going to be with the same funniness and passion that I have, especially, and we're getting close to football season. So now I'm going to talk about on this show the draft, the Chicago Bears and their draft picks this past weekend, and spring, OTAs and mini camps, and then training camp's going to open in July, and then you're right in the middle of baseball season and then football season. So it gives us a lot of fuel for the fire, so to speak, in the direction of what we want to go with in our show. We've always started with the sports. We are kind of a passionate, in our own right, a passionate sports fan. Played a lot of sports. You've heard about some of those stories. So if you provide feedback, if you go to the ShawnMackeyShow.com website and you want to send me an email, I think there's a place where you can, do that. And if you like the direction the show's been going for the first 10 episodes, and you kind of want to keep that, let me know. Hey, I'm new to this game, but I want to get it right. A podcast is only as good as having listeners. I want people to listen to what I have to say. I don't want to feel like I'm just sitting back here ranting and raving to myself on camera as I make the video portion of the podcast. So send us that feedback again, the ShawnMackeyShow.com. So let's just get started. Here's the Chicago Bears draft. It is not what anybody expected it to be. I think looking through the multitude of Chicago Bears sports pages that I follow leading up to the draft and hearing everybody's thoughts, I mean, I'd have to say that every single page, if I follow 10 pages, all 10 pages were filled with everybody wanting Ashton Genty, and they want the running back. And I'm still thinking we need some offensive and defensive line help. I thought that's where the focus was going to be this time around, even with them signing Drew Dahlman, John Thuney, and Jonah Jackson. They have solidified that offensive line, and that's something, we'll touch on a little bit later in this episode. And so I still thought they might go after or try to go after one of those top offensive tackles or defensive tackles. And I don't think anybody saw this draft playing out the way that it did. But I got to tell you, after looking at some highlight films and, watching some tape on these guys that we drafted, or I say we, it's not me, Ryan Poles, first of all, we got to remember they know things that we don't know as fans. We can watch the games. We can read the articles. We can look at the websites. We can follow the transactions, form our own opinions, whether we played the game or not. But they're with these guys day in and day out. Plus, you got a new coach. You got Ben Johnson, and you have to know, after the fiasco that has been the Chicago Bears since John Fox, you had to know that if they got Ben Johnson was going to have some say, and he was going to do things differently. You have to believe that, and you have to believe that with Ryan Poles as well. So my first reaction when they drafted Colston Loveland in the first round was I went to I was on Facebook, I was switching back and forth with the draft, scrolling Facebook, and but somebody was like, oh, they had the mean or the pissed off emoji, the red, like that, and they were like, yeah, what are they doing? And I'm like, yeah, we didn't need another tight end. And then someone chimes in on my, comments on mine, like, yeah, we did. All we had was Cole Kmet. And I'm thinking, no, we didn't. Here we go. This is why I stay off of social media a lot of times. Well, I'm on it. I look. I don't participate a lot in social media unless it's something I've posted, and I try to keep it good, nice, and cordial, because I don't know what it is about people and their need to contradict things you say constantly, or, start with the nastiness and the name calling. And, it's one of those things where we've gotten too comfortable sitting behind a computer screen. And if you and I were face to face in a room and having this conversation, I guarantee a lot of things wouldn't be said. So, and I don't ever feel the need, if I don't agree with someone's video, I've been posting some TikTok videos talking about Gen X and things, and you make a little list, a video with a list. So the one I did was why, Gen X is always so mad is because we started buying vinyl, then they made us switch to cassettes and then compact disc, and you get the point. And then, of course, everybody's coming out of the wood. Oh, you forgot 8-track tapes. And I'm like, I didn't forget them. I know they existed. I used them. My parents had 8-track tape all the time. You had to press the button and go from track 1 to track 2. And then, it was like you couldn't even find a song. You couldn't rewind or fast forward. You couldn't pick up the needle and put it back where you wanted it to be. They were a pain in the ass. I didn't forget them. It's just that my first purchase was albums. So, that's where I went. And so I don't like the nastiness that is Facebook. So this guy commented, and I spent a lot of time. I was going to comment back. I'm like, oh, you just drafted the fifth person who's exactly the same. Because if you look at the Bears roster right now, in their tight end room, every guy is a mirror of each other. I swear to God, everybody's between 6'5" and 6'8", 240 to 250 pounds. For lack of a better term, as like it's all white guys. I know you just signed two guys in the offseason to fill that tight end room. So I'm thinking, why? Why? So here we go. Let's look at the tight end room. Steven Carlson, 6'4", 240. Cole Kmet, 6'6", 260. Colston Loveland, 6'5", 245. Jordan Murray, 6'5", 240. And Durham Smythe, 6'6", 246. You got 5 or 6 guys who are the same. Yes, some of those guys won't be around when the Bears open the season, and that's fine. But I started looking at the Colston Loveland deal, and this kid, I'm not going to say stud right now, but he's a hybrid, and you want to go to a 2 tight end system. And you got a guy here like Colston Loveland. He can line up as a wide out. He can line up as a tight end. Who do you cover him with? Do you come out and say, you come out in three receiver set, and you've got this guy as a tight end as one of the wide receivers? Do you cover him with a cornerback? Do you put a linebacker on him? The thing is he's got athleticism and he's got speed, so he's going to get open. He's a deep threat as a tight end or as a wide receiver, not as a deep a threat as maybe a true, legit deep threat wide receiver, but the guy's kind of a hybrid. So Ben Johnson's looking at this 2 tight end system, and I felt Cole Kmet could go mid-range, not crazy deep, and he did lumber a little bit on the field, but this guy, Colston Loveland, he makes some catches. Unbelievable. He gets open. He can go deep. He's not afraid to go up the middle. He picks up yards after the catch, so his yak is pretty good. At Michigan, he put up about 117 receptions and about 1,466 yards over the course of his career. But he's that dual threat, that 2 tight end system. Line him up as a wide out. You're going to give defensive coordinators fits on how do you cover this guy. And so, everybody was saying it's like what Ben Johnson did with Sam Laporta in Detroit. So, okay, we see Ben Johnson's stamp right on number 1 draft pick right off the bat. Colston Loveland, he raised on a farm in Bliss, Idaho, Gooding High School product. He, young kid, got that little baby face, 21 years old, but I think we're going to see some good things out of the Bears and Colston Loveland, to be specific. And the funny thing is about this draft is I really think we see 3 trades. The Bears traded a pick to the Bills to move up in the draft, but then they traded that pick back to the Bills later, and then they made a trade with the Rams. So I think we're looking at the 3 players that Ryan Poles really wanted. He sent the smoke screen up. Everybody wanted Ashton Genty. Maybe that stud defensive end or that top edge rusher. Everybody's thinking they're going to trade up to get one of those 2 guys. And I think Poles knew who he wanted all along. And I think we see that with the first 3 picks. Colston Loveland, Luther Burden III, and Ozzie Trapilo, I think. And then the rest of the picks, I think Poles was just juggling and traded to pick up an extra pick here or there, make sure he got 8 guys going. He did pick up something for next season, a 4th round pick, I believe, in the 2026 with one of those first trades that he made. So I see some strategic moves here. So when you're looking at the offensive line, I think the Ozzie pick sends a message to Braxton Jones. He's the odd man out. I think he's going to get exposed this year. He's always graded out highly. Like I said, I've said in other podcasts, I'm not very sold on the guy. But I think now with the addition of Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, you still got Darnell Wright on the right side. I mean, they're slating Ozzie Trapilo to fall in line behind Darnell Wright and the Luke Newman, one of the other draft picks we'll talk about, sliding him in at left guard behind Joe Thuney. And they like Kiran Amagaji, and he's a Chicago kid, and he looks like he's slated in behind Braxton Jones. but you still got 2 question marks, I think, right there at left tackle. So if Braxton kind of gets exposed with the play of the other guys on that line, and he's your weak man, do you slide Amagaji in there? And then if he gets exposed, what are you doing? So I think, Ozzy could come in and slot in right at right tackle, and maybe you move Mark Darnell Wright over to the left side if Jones, I got to stop saying his first name, Jiminy Crickets, if Jones is shown to be or proven to be the weak link. So pick number 2, Luther Burden III, kid out of Missouri. He's speedster. This kid has good body control. I was watching some film on him, and the acrobatic catch, the dynamic catches that he was making, I mean, completely spinning his body around as he's falling to the ground, making those catches. It's unbelievable. He's got breakaway speed. He'll make you miss in the open field. You better have eyes on the hips all the time, because if you're looking anywhere above the hips on this guy, you're toast. He's going to make you miss. And he's also another one of those dual threats. This is a guy you can put him in motion, and you can run speed option. He can fit in as like a halfback there. You can put him in the slot, and he's got that wide receiver speed. And he had a breakout year in 23 at Mizzou with 86 catches, 1,212 yards overall for his career, 192 receptions, 2,200 yards for his 3 years at Mizzou. So that's another guy, like, you've got him and Colston Loveland on the same field at the same time. You got DeAndre Swift. And that's a big thing. I was glad they didn't take Ashton Genty, just because Swift, you signed this guy for 4 years. He's a pretty decent back. He's had some good years, and he didn't do too badly or too poorly for the Bears last year. I think it's just that their line was terrible, and we've all known this. But I think with the additions you picked up in the offseason, with your trades and your free agent signings, Dahlman, Thuney, and Jonah Jackson, you solidified that offensive line immediately. Hell, even if Jones is your weak link on the left side, well, don't run to the left. Or set everything up, run to the right. When you do need to run to the left, that's when you put Cole Kmet on the outside to help Braxton Jones, But I think you would have been fine with DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson. They might have bigger plans for Johnson in the backfield, the Bears do. But now you've got a guy like Burden III, and he can slot in right there. Slot, wide out, running back, fly, sweep motion. He's got some tools. He's got some speed. He's another kid from East St. Louis, Illinois. So that's a good thing right there. I'm not going to say hometown kid because he's not from Chicago, but, an Illinois product, went to Missouri. So he's the number 2 pick for the Chicago Bears. And then we get down to the right tackle, Ozzy Trapilo. Offensive lineman, you can't find many stats on the guy. I was trying to look up and find, how many sacks he'd given up or pressures or this, that, and the other. I think I read somewhere maybe 6 sacks last season at Boston College. You know what? No big deal right there. He's going to have to develop and put on a little bit of strength but at 6'8", 316, but he's athletic. I mean, that's the thing. For an offensive tackle, he's athletic. He sets his feet well. He can set that edge and seal it off and not let anybody get outside him. And he's really good with the hands. He gets those hands. If he's fighting against a guy who's, trying to knock his hands down and everything, he's very good at getting those hands back up. And he can get inside on you and just stand you up. So, and that's the thing. And he can get upfield. He can get to the second level and pick up linebackers. Pulls really nicely. He's got some wheels for a 6'8", 316-pound man. So I like that pick, and I'm starting to look at this as like an under the radar draft for the Bears. Pulls, I think those are the 3 guys he really wanted, and he shocked everybody in Chicago Bears fandom by going in that direction. And I'm going to tell you what, you scroll through the posts on Facebook, And so many people are still like, what did he do? They're pissed off. They're like, this is terrible. But I think what they're showing us is that this team is going to reap the rewards of the past drafts under Ryan Poles, because I think they didn't feel that they really needed to go out and sign Obadingo, Dio Obadingo, and then the other linebacker that they signed in the offseason. And so they solidified there. You still got that, I think it's Booker kid, that Austin Booker coming up. Yeah, he did. Oh, Jesus Christ, Austin Booker. Too many crickets. I got to find it. But yeah, he played. He had a pretty good year last year. Pretty decent for his first year, and I think they expect a lot more out of him over the course of the next season. So, where did he go? Yeah, Austin Booker. All right, 6'6", 245. I lost myself there. I'm looking at the ESPN app on my phone. Yes, we do that. We podcast. I'm not going to memorize everything for my show. I look up stats. It's just a little bit different. If you watch it and you're listening to the radio show, they got 20 computers around. They got guys handing them notes, just like a baseball game. You think that Pat Hughes comes up with all that information on his own? No, producers are handing them stuff. I'm just a one-man show, so I got to do it myself. But now that takes us to the first defensive player that they took this week in the draft. Shamar Turner. I think that was the next pick that the Bears had. And then they picked up Ruben Hippolyte. So Shamar Turner, 22 out of DeSoto, Texas, went to Texas A&M. So he had some pretty good numbers for a defensive tackle, if I remember correctly. He, where did it go? I don't have his stats. I lost it there. I had him. I know it's 66 tackles. That might have been Ruben Hippolyte. I don't know. I'm trying to look through um, my pages here, and I actually, forgot about Shamar Turner, but I think it's defensive tackle out of Texas A&M. So let's look at and see what we got here during his college career. First collegiate career game as a freshman, he had 4 tackles, 1.5 sacks. Not a lot of production there. 2023 had 33 tackles and 6 sacks. He I don't know. I don't know what they see in this guy. He didn't put up a huge bunch of numbers for a defensive tackle. I want my defensive tackle to be, a 3-year starter at least. Some guy is picking up 50, 60 tackles every year and just shutting the run down up the middle. I know that might be a little bit lot to ask for as a defensive tackle, but we picked up Shamar Turner, and I think the Ruben Hippolyte pick as a linebacker, maybe just needing an extra linebacker. I don't know why. I think, well, you did lose the kid to Dallas that they decided not to sign that everybody loved. Oh my God, Jack Sanborn. So, you did need to maybe solidify that linebacker room a little bit. I don't know. We'll see what Ruben Hippolyte brings to the table. It's out of Florida, American Heritage High School, and then went to MacArthur in Hollywood, Florida, played at Maryland. 66 tackles last year, I believe he had total. 33 solo, 33 assisted, had 2 pass defense, no sacks. So, I haven't had a chance yet to watch some tape on him, but that's a good thing about the show now. We're getting ready to move into the full swing of football season and then baseball season. So we're going to touch on our favorites, the Bears and the Cubs, and continue to do that. So we picked up another offensive lineman, Luke Newman. Attended Brother Rice High School in Bloomfield Township, Michigan, Oakland County, and he played for Holy Cross and then was drafted out of Michigan State by the Bears. So he's also one of those that's slated in to fill up a background role right off the bat for this offensive line. And then I saw an article on Facebook. This had me cracking up. Now, and it said like Tyreek Stevenson was just put on notice. Well, and someone did the same thing for Braxton Jones by the 2 offensive linemen that we drafted, and then drafting Za Frazier. And I thought, maybe does Zaquan Frazier have something that is gonna knock Tyreek Stevenson out of that starting lineup? I'm surprised that the Bears kept him around. After that debacle last year against the Washington Commanders, and he basically lost that game for them after they busted their butt to take the lead. Caleb Williams played his ass off in that game. And then after that, the kid pouted a lot. Every time you saw a big play, a big reception for the Bears after the Commanders game, it was always in front of Tyreek Stevenson. I don't know why the guy is still around. They said he was put on notice when Al Harris took the job as the defensive backs coach for the Bears under Ben Johnson. And now they're saying with the drafting of Zaquan Frazier that, he's on notice again. So I hope, I never was a big fan of Kyle Fuller, and I don't even think that dude's in football anymore. I wasn't a big fan of Kyler Gordon when he first got to the Bears because of the way they were playing him. He wasn't up to that task, but I think the way he's been utilized the past 2 seasons, he's deserving of that extension that he'd gotten this past off season. So good for Kyler Gordon. But maybe we'll see some good things out of Zaquan Frazier. He's a kid out of Georgia, Cedartown, Georgia. He played at Southern Illinois University his first year of collegiate ball. So we got another Illinois kid, kind of, by way of high school and for a year at football. Then he went to left SIU and went to Coffeyville Community College and then played at UTSA. So we'll see. That's the Bears draft in a nutshell. I know they signed about 10 or 11 other free agents, but we're going to see how this season shapes up. We've got some, some good things to look forward to. I'm actually getting excited this year for the Bears already. And the past 2 seasons, I wasn't sold on polls. I wasn't 100% certain. I mean, I knew Eberflus. I thought they should have never brought Eberflus back last season to begin with, just to end up firing him after Thanksgiving, because that dude, he was terrible. I didn't even know. I'm at a loss for words with him. The decisions he made, the way he managed the clock. He did have the defense playing a little bit decently, and that was evident after the interim head coach took over. And the Bears, I thought the Bears could win out last year when they got rid of Eberflus. I thought that would turn the locker room around, and it went in total opposite direction till that last game against Green Bay. So I'm very excited about what's going to happen in the upcoming season here. We've got some good things to look forward to, so we got to take a little in-depth, a little more of an in-depth look at some of these draft choices and see how this roster is shaping out as the course of this early season progresses. I always say it starts with the draft, because soon after that you've got all the OTAs and the mini camps, and then the training camp comes up in July, and boom, you're in full swing. So we got some good things to look forward to here for the Chicago Bears. I kind of hit my half-hour mark, and normally on our show, we would only have a half hour. So I think, you know what, in light of making some changes, I had some things I wanted to continue on with today's show. I wanted to talk about the Cubs. The Cubs are also getting me excited. If I would have done a show last week on Easter, it wouldn't have been too good, because I think that week, or prior between shows. The Cubs were like 3-3, and they had lost a few games, and things weren't looking so good. But since then, they went out and beat the Dodgers, and after losing two to open the season in Japan against the Dodgers and start the season 0-2, and for the Cubs to end up taking the series for the season against the Dodgers, I think it was 4-3. That showed me some promise. The lineup is coming around. Dansby Swanson's still struggling a little bit, but he's been hitting the last couple of days. The bottom of the order is pretty top notch. There's not a lot of drop off. PCA is coming around. He's starting to make some records or break some records in Major League Baseball. Pitching staff, Colin Ray's doing a good job filling in for the injured Steele. So, I like some things that are happening with the Cubs here too. Gage Workman, the feel-good story of spring training. We thought this kid had a chance. He put up some good numbers in the spring, and then he gets a shot third base the other day, and they're like 3 errors, and it gives up the lead. And I think that's a game that the Cubs ended up coming back and winning anyway. So we'll see what happens here as the Cubs season progresses. They got the Phillies tonight. This is a first time they haven't taken a series. I think they took like 4 in a row at some point earlier in this season. And having Easter off really kind of threw me for a loop because I've had so much going on. And then that draft yesterday got me all excited for that. So, I don't have a lot of Cubs stuff put together for you. Just letting you know I'm getting excited. So for those of you that do listen to the podcast and know how I'm always kind of like down on my teams or something, this is kind of a turning point for me here because I'm getting pretty excited for that. So, I don't have any shit that pisses me off this week. It's been a pretty good couple of weeks as far as, I've got some things and some ideas, but they don't kind of jive right now with the way we've been taking the show today. But I did, I put a post on Facebook that I was going to talk about the shit that pisses me off was going to be the injustices of being a man. And I only said that I needed something to put on Facebook, but I had a memory came up on Facebook of a photo I had taken after we remodeled our bathroom. And it's a photo of our medicine cabinet. It's a legit our medicine cabinet. And in the medicine cabinet, so on the left-hand side, you have to think, so it's 3 shelves and the mirror, you push the mirror and it pops open, you pull the mirror open. And in the medicine cabinet, I've got like this little corner down here, and I keep my little razor blades for my electric razor. And I got that. And then I had a little section up here where I had something up there. I can't remember what it was in the original photo, but then now I've got 2 pill bottles. My medicine bottles are like right here. So in this entire medicine cabinet, I probably have 5 or 6 things in it, and the rest is just all my wife's, so the joke was on this photo, I highlighted in blue, like the little space that was mine. And then I highlighted and I was like, man, woman. And then what? You got enough space, which is literally what my wife told me when we filled it. And I was like, Jesus Christ, you got all this space and I got this little bit. And she's like, that's enough. I mean, it's just like when we bought the house, we had one little closet in the master bedroom and we had to share it. And of course it was small and she had 7/8 of it and I had 1/8 of it. And it was all her stuff, and I just had this little space, and it got to be a pain. And then I made her closet bigger, and we were still sharing it for a while. And then we had this dead space behind our door, and I finally was able to put up another wall when I expanded her closet, and I made my closet in there. But again, her closet's probably twice the size as my closet. So, and, I was going to go all on about, and then, like, we always got to put the seat down for them, but they never put it back up for us. The injustices of being a man. But that's just me coming from, I've lived with women my entire life. So, I was the oldest child. There was just me and my sister, and my dad and mom got divorced. So growing up, I lived with my mom and my sister. And then I got married the first time, and we moved in with her mother for a while. And then we had a daughter. So then it was me, my wife, my mother-in-law, ex-mother-in-law, and my daughter. And I lived with those women. And then she and I got divorced, and I was on my own for like 1 or 2 years, and I could leave the toilet seat up. I could do whatever the hell I want. The entire medicine cabinet was mine. Of course, I just only had this little section, and the rest was empty because I had nothing else in the medicine cabinet when I lived on my own. But and then I met my wife, and I fell in love, and I got married again. And then we had two daughters. Two daughters. Our dog, Maggie, the first dog we had, was a female. Then we adopted Daisy, was a female. Then when Maggie passed away, I took in a male dog just so I could have a male companion in the house. And then now our other dog, Charlie, passed away last year. Our other dog's a female too. So I've spent my whole life living with women, and I just feel like there's just some things like that suck to be a man when you live with women all the time. There's certain conversations you've got to just hightail it and walk out of the room. Like I'll be coming down the hall, minding my own business, and I'll turn into the front room, and the girls will be talking in there, and then I'll hear that word, and I spin around, and I try to go back to the other side of the house, or I gotta get out of here. Like certain conversations I don't want to hear and have to hear, and and then of course the women always bond, so they always go to their mommy, and that's fine. I'm the guy, I'm the dad. I do the strong stuff around the house. I do the tough loving. I'm the look guy, so when they're acting a fools, I just give them the look, so that I didn't have to beat them like my parents beat me. That's my role. So I just felt like there was some little injustices going on, but I just couldn't think about how to make them, that funny to share with you here, even though I just shared them with you. You know what I mean? So that was what shit that pisses me off was going to be this week. But I did also say in that post that I wanted to introduce you to some dumbass shit that I did. And this is my real life Jerry Maguire moment. And I'm going to be very brief with this because I want to finish up here in the next 7 or 8 minutes with chapter 3 of the John Franklin story, He Who Was Dead. But when I was teaching in October, I think it was 2008, I decided to finally get my master's degree. I was going to at first I wanted to get my master's, and this is where it all starts. I can trace this all back. So you're going to have to stick with me here, and I'm going to take you through this whole scenario over the next 2 or 3 episodes. So 2006 or 2007, they started bringing in some technology, this Moodle, this smart boards we were going to start incorporating technology into the classroom. So we got this Moodle, and at the time they touted it to us as a free version, but it was like Blackboard. Like when colleges started rolling out Blackboard, where you can, and I think now they use Canvas and things like that, or Google, whatever. I don't know what they all use. I'm not in that game anymore, but anyway, I thought it was a great idea because in my classroom as an English teacher, I wanted to start teaching more quality for the subject than quantity. Like I always felt that the stupid worksheets and the tests and everything that came with the textbooks, they were good resources to have, but I always tried to make my own. I tried to make it relatable for the kids. And I noticed the kids struggling with a couple of things. And that big thing was writing. With the advent, with the text messaging, everybody's texting and they're using all these slang terms like we use now, LOL, IDK, BRB, and they were writing these in essays. So you can't really do that. And it doesn't matter what career goal you have. If you don't want to go to college, if you go to college, odds are you're still going to have to write for your job, something. If you're a truck driver, you got to write up reports on the condition of the truck after every shift. And you got to make sure that you're writing well enough to be able, so the mechanic who gets it knows what the hell needs to be fixed, or your life is on the line here, things of that nature. So I wanted to go in that direction with my classroom, and I kind of started to, and I got in a little bit of trouble, no big deal. But then I started working on my master's degree, and I originally wanted to get my master's degree as a reading specialist, even though I was a high school teacher, because I noticed as a freshman high school teacher, a lot of my students couldn't read. And we were also, as the high school, the last resort for the whole No Child Left Behind and adequate yearly progress back with the Bush administration, where he had said that 100% of all the nation's students had to meet or exceed standards by whatever year it was, 2015, that kind of deal. And we had kids who couldn't read at the high school level. And it boggled my mind because I couldn't do a lot of things as a teacher. I couldn't have certain classes read outside of the classroom so that we could just discuss it in the classroom. We had to read together as a class because so many of them couldn't read. They had to hear me read it out loud, or I had to play the compact disc that came from the textbook with somebody giving the audio version of the story because they couldn't read. So I wanted to get in as a reading specialist, and I was told in no uncertain terms by my principal at the time that they would not pay for that because that was something that was geared toward more for elementary school kids, which I get and I understand. We actively stopped teaching reading when kids are in second or third grade. So while I was getting my curriculum and instruction degree for my master's, I was learning some new techniques that I thought would work really well and move us forward into the 21st century as we progressed in school. And so I made the mistake one day of having had enough, and I sent out a memo to the entire staff at my school, and within 30 days, I was made to feel like I was no longer wanted at that school, and I ended up resigning, and it was a dumbass thing to do because you'll hear some more about this in the next couple of weeks of the episode and how it all kind of ties together. But I wanted to introduce you to my real life Jerry Maguire moment. That's what we affectionately refer to it as around the house, because I did spend some time writing up an actual memo. I don't have it, but I will share the gist of it with you next week, and then we will get further into why and how the Jerry Maguire moment back in 2010 came back to bite me in the ass and be a dumbass thing yet to today, even this day and age. So that's enough of that there. Now I want to give you chapter 3 of He Who Was Dead, the John Franklin story. When we left John, they were riding in the car. He just found out that the guy in the coffee shop was his dad. And John was a little worried because he did not text his boss that he was possibly going to be late for work or not coming in. So this is chapter 3. I must have sat there for what felt like forever. But looking through the thick glass partition that separated the back from the front of this strange SUV told me only 17 minutes had passed since I left my car to enter the no-name coffee shop. All right, I'm sure it had a name, but I have no idea what it is, or was it the place that makes it through this unfortunate event? Jeez, what a way to start the morning, and it's fucking Monday to boot. Wow, not sure I can top today throughout the rest of the week. Damn. Will I even make it to the end of the week? We have some great plans this weekend. Marcy and the kids will be so disappointed if I can't make it. Hell, I might be dead. Then they'll really be disappointed. I think. Yeah, I know. I said I think. Look, now is not the time to sugarcoat things. I haven't been the greatest husband and father. Who knows what they'll think? I'm distant. I don't always tell them how I feel, and I spend a lot of time pissed off that I, 1, lost my father at a young age, and 2, my mom wasn't the greatest mother either. I had no one to teach me what a proper, loving, caring relationship should look like. I've been winging it since I said I do to my first wife. She and I share a daughter together. We've made it work, but that's all I'm going to say about that. I pulled out my phone to make a call. The first call in times of trouble is the most important. Don't get this one right and you survive, you'll probably wish you hadn't made it. Life will not be bearable. So that's chapter 3 of He Who Was Dead. That's a little bit of a short chapter there, but that is okay. I am going to continue with this story. I'll continue writing some of it. It's not going to take us that long to get through it, but I want to thank you for listening. That is the end of this week's show. You'll notice we've got about 45 minutes in. That's about the new time frame with some of our upgrades that we may go ahead and keep the show. Again, we're looking to revamp it a little bit, take on a little bit more of a focus. We hope you'll stick around and see where this goes with us. So thank you again. You can find us on the web at theshawnmackeyshow.com, TheShawnMackey.com. Take care, folks.